This is John Kaiser at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver on September 15th, 2017. I am speaking with James Buskard, President of Nevada Exploration. James, welcome to the conference.
Thanks for having us, John.
During your presentation, you outlined the methodology, the recent innovations in terms of efficiency and cost in prospecting with a drill bit, getting undercover, getting into bedrock. You spent most of the year with your new outfitted Scorpion rig in the Kelley Creek Basin area, which is sort of east of the Marigold operation of SSR, formerly Silver Standard, and southeast of the former Lone Tree mine, 5 million ounces, upper plate hosted, structurally controlled. The work that you have done has built a 3D picture within the gravel in terms of groundwater flow, as well as you sampled the bedrock. Have you been able to identify structures within the system which now, with traditional angled drilling, need to be tested to see if they are gold bearing?
Yeah. It's important to keep in mind that what we use out in these covered areas is more than just groundwater chemistry. And our exploration program at Kelley Creek is included groundwater chemistry, but it's also several rounds of geophysics, including gravity and seismic and CSAMT. And with this combined data set, we do have a fairly good handle on what we think the projected structures look like, heading north of Lone Tree and Marigold there. And what we're trying to do is key the gold and groundwater that we see to these projected structures. Can we follow what we're seeing in the groundwater back to something that can be a clue we can follow in bedrock down to something that we can mine? And that's what the Scorpion drilling has added. Whereas before we were looking at a really two-dimensional geochemistry profile of the system, by using the Scorpion drill and looking at a 3D component, we can both follow the gold and groundwater and the gold and overburden back to its source. And so for the first time, we're chasing the groundwater chemistry back down to the bedrock. And what we're finding is the gold and groundwater gets stronger and leads us to concentrations of gold in the bedrock. In our best area right now, in the central part of the project, we've got two holes that have terminated in 1/10 of a gram type material. And while these aren't screaming ore grade intervals that might excite the market, when you look at the sort of material associated with Lone Tree and Marigold nearby, this is exactly what we're hoping to find with the Scorpion. And now that we've keyed into the gold in the bedrock along these projected structures we've seen in the geophysics, this is exactly the sort of target we can now justify the expense of using conventional RC or core drilling. So yeah, we're at the point now where we're ready to start testing some of these targets.
In terms of the scale of the target you have identified in Kelley Creek Basin, if you were to farm the project out to a third party, what do you feel they need to do to make or break this target, and roughly how much would it cost?
If you look at where we've completed our Scorpion drilling program, we've really only covered the southern half of what is a fairly extensive claim package covering a very shallow bedrock shelf heading north from the known mineralization in the range fronts. This entire bedrock shelf deserves a systematic exploration program. So there's two components. What would it cost to test the targets we've already identified, and what would it cost to continue what we're doing to the north? And a conservative core drilling program to test 3 to 4 of the targets that we've identified to date, it's in the $1 to $2 million Canadian range.
That's more money than you have right now, so it's understandable that you would look at farming that out, and you want to take your technology and move back to Grass Valley, which is a valley that runs northeast southwest with Cortez Hills at the northern end. About 4 or 5 years ago, you formed a joint venture with McEwen Mining based on groundwater sampling, which identified the area at the northern end of Grass Valley as a major groundwater anomaly. At that time, you did not have your Scorpion rig and its 3D ability. You guys identified a gravity low, which you interpreted as a decalcified, rotted out part of the system that would probably be mineralized. McEwen Mining drilled a deep, expensive hole, and it turned out it was actually a down-drop block, and you never exited upper plate rocks, which are not what you're looking for there. Your stock fell out of bed. McEwen Mining dropped the option. You got some geothermal holes assayed that had been drilled farther south. How did that change? Is this unfinished business for you?
Yeah, what we know based on some work from the USGS and from some seismic profiles that some oil and gas groups have done in the area is we have a very active, regionally significant rangefront fault heading down south of Cortez along the rangefront here, mostly undercover. And along a portion of that, we have a golden groundwater anomaly containing concentrations of gold similar to what we see around the big gold deposits in the state. So this was a compelling drill target for McEwen. There was other drill targeting tools like the air magnetics that we used. But like you said, they drilled one hole. And this is a structurally complex area. There's blocks that have been shoved up and there's been blocks that have been dropped down. So one hole into a down drop block was disappointing. And I understand it was north of $200,000 for that single drill hole. Well, what the geothermal holes have added to this story is these holes are more than 4 kilometers to the south, along the same structural regime that we see in the seismic geophysics. And while these were not particularly mineralized for gold, they're very hydrothermally altered and the same sort of indicator element package, the same sort of geochemistry that you associate with Carlin-style deposits to the north of Cortez, we're seeing here 4 kilometers to the south. What that tells us is this is a very large system. And what we're looking for here in Nevada are large systems, because these big systems result in big gold deposits. So it was a big step forward for the project to understand how big is this system, how much volume of bedrock has it affected. It really increases the upside for what we think is an important target at Grass Valley.
Now, in your presentation, you had a slide of Grass Valley showing all your sample locations, most of which were just black dots, but you had a number of various colored dots at the northern end where you have done the work, and also a cluster at the southern end. To what extent do you believe that the middle part of this valley is indeed nothing there, which makes the anomalies at the northern and southern end so much more interesting and worthy of follow-up with your Scorpion rig?
I think it's important to point out that the distribution of mostly zeros that you see in Grass Valley is representative of the whole state. It's unusual to find gold in groundwater, period. And so this idea that most of the basin has been deemed barren from a groundwater perspective isn't unique to Grass Valley. So we're pretty confident in terms of the prospectivity of these two targets relative to the rest of the basin.
So people have complained, well, where is your big discovery that proves the concept? And yet what you're telling me is the blanks that you get are extraordinarily valuable because they are killing vast stretches of unprospective basins in Nevada. And when you do find a cluster of these types of groundwater anomalies, that is very, very significant. How many other such clusters have you identified through reconnaissance sampling in northern Nevada that are sitting there open? Because basically at the moment you can't afford to spend the money to stake these claims, and it's expensive in Nevada to keep claims alive. And of course you don't have the capital yet to do the exploration. Suppose you did get one of these big producers, such as this new trend where they're becoming minority stakeholders in the company to bankroll big district-wide exploration like that. How many such areas could you overnight return to, acquire, and start doing more advanced work, and also follow up with additional groundwater sampling to upgrade to staking level?
Yeah, we have 3 projects presently. They total around 110 square kilometers. We have another 5 targets of a similar size that are ready for acquisition with the appropriate level of capitalization, and at least a dozen other high priority targets that with a little bit of follow-up work we think could very quickly become meaningful acquisitions.
James, that's very interesting. I've been talking with James Buskard at the Metals Investor Forum. Thank you, James.
Thanks, Tony.